Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Cradle News Roundup, your one-stop shop for all news West Asia, coming to you live. My name is Esteban Carrillo, and I am the head of news for the Cradle. And as usual, I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, content creator and writer for the Cradle, Karim Shami, and columnist and editor for the Cradle, Sharmin Narwani. And as usual, before we start, just the friendly reminder: hit that like button as soon as you arrive. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Check out our memberships here on YouTube. And above all, go and check out our Patreon, where you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. We are currently on a Patreon drive, if you will. We need to get 1,000 subscribers. Well, actually, no, maybe Charmin can correct me. Is it 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, Charmin?
5,000 subscribers by the end of 2026. But I think we moved our deadline 1,000 by the end of March.
Okay, so please help us get the word out. If you are able at all to become a Patreon, please do so. We need your support, and we thank everyone who is always here. Also, by the way, we have a new episode out of Rock the Cradle, an interview show, the second episode featuring Kabor Kalmasian for a discussion in the critical situation in Syria, in particular in relation to the Kurdish issue. So go check it out as well. Go show it some love. Let's start talking about the signing of the Board of Peace, Donald Trump's Board of Peace, and the charter. Well, the signing happened in Davos. I'm actually not sure how you pronounce it. On the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, with the presence of the heads of states of, from what my count, it's 23 nations or 24, including the U.S., that have joined this Board of Peace. Interestingly, only Hungary from the Western world, right, or Western Europe, I suppose. Everyone else, just every other country, really just a vassal, right, a happy vassal of the U.S., in the words of the Belgian Prime Minister. So the signing signature, the signing ceremony, I'm sorry, the unveiling of the so-called master plan for Gaza by Jared Kushner, and also the release of the full text, which interestingly enough makes absolutely no mention of Gaza. The entire document, the charter of the Board of Peace, allegedly, for to govern Gaza, does not actually make mention of it, which again has led support, to the theory that this is actually just an attempt to replace the UN, which is something we discussed briefly on Monday as well. So having said that, I don't know if you guys want to comment about this, or maybe we can hear Jared Kushner's mega plan for Gaza.
I do want to say that I actually only read the charter of the Board of Peace today. Initially, I assumed people were saying, oh, this is like another UN, because so many countries were being invited. But when you read the damn 60, thing, and we have to, Karim, we have to link it to this podcast because it's crazy. As Esteban mentioned, there's not a single mention of Gaza. The chairman of the Board of Peace is Trump, and always Trump unless he's incapacitated.
For life. For life.
Yeah, for life. So even another U.S. president, things tick on. He gets to change all the rules. Okay, there are rules. But he gets to change them, and he can kick out a country, unless I think they paid the $1 billion up front. He can move around the executive committee at will. He can do everything. He can decide. He can decide himself to veto any idea from any member. All right. And it would take 2/3 of the executive board, not everyone, the executive board, which he will name because he gets to decide all things. And to be honest, you have to read it. Then you will realize, actually, we should not be talking about Trump's Board of Peace in relation to Palestine or Gaza, even though that is the first, I guess, what's it called? The first experiment, right? It will be its first area of operation, potentially. But, I mean, what did we call this episode? Dead on Arrival?
Yes, by the way, the title still needs to come up on the YouTube, but yes, that should be the title of this episode.
Trump's Board of Peace, Dead on Arrival. I have never been so sure of anything in my analytical career. I say this because, I've been banging on about this for ages, as you know, Esteban and Karim, that these US constructs don't have any legs, whether it's the Gaza Aid Pier
Oh
or
my
it's
God.
the, what's it called, GTF? I can't even remember these acronyms anymore.
The Humanitarian Foundation, which, just a small parenthesis, a
GHF.
bunch of the people behind it are also now behind the Board of Peace.
Yeah, they couldn't make that work. So do as the U.S. government is doing forever, recycle them into another construct. And that's basically why it will fail. Who are these people? Who chose them? Trump. Is this a Trump world government? And imagine that the Americans are trying to create an alternative UN, basically, at a time where not a country in the world trusts them, not even Israel, by the way, which is why the US has no military bases in Israel. Okay. There's not, I think, maybe with the exception of Hungary, and that's like a Orban decision, no doubt. I don't think a single European country has signed up. No NATO allies, no, Britain, France, Russia, China, no UN Security Council permanent members. You have to remember that recognize that the Board of Peace is coming at a time where the Americans, I mean Trump in particular, but the Americans for a long time have been undermining the UN. Okay, Trump just in the last month withdrew from more than 60 UN agencies.
Yep.
Which means he's basically saying the UN doesn't matter anymore. I don't know why he's keeping it in the US then. Set it free, let it move somewhere else. Greenland would be a good choice. And then at the same time, Israel has not just violated, but ignored hundreds of UN General Assembly resolutions, hundreds of UN Security Council resolutions, ignored ICC rulings, ignored ICJ rulings. These are basically the ones who are now trying to reframe the international, community and international law. Now, Carney came out at Davos and said it was all a lie. The rules-based order just means those with power, and we knew it, but we kept quiet because it was working for us.
Because it worked for us, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So let the cat out of the bag. I mean, the fact that no Western journalists for any mainstream media ever called that out. The fact that stenographers, they went on talking about rules-based order. These are journalists, okay? The ones who have to keep power to account, right? Or hold power to account. They just repeated what everyone knew. Everybody in the halls of power knew that let's go with this for as long as it works, as long as nobody questions us. Trump is trying to create another, a global government in which he is chairman for life. And by the way, he gets to, if he dies, he will have appointed his successor. Only he can appoint his successor. Okay. The most undemocratic institution in the world at a time where nobody trusts the Americans. Nobody. Yeah. And so this Trump Board of Peace is dead on arrival. You heard it here first with the Cradle.
It's very likely. Karim, I sent a couple of links. One of them has Trump's speech at the launch, and also one has the images, because you have, some of the leaders here are, actually most of them are raging Zionists. Yeah. You have a, yes?
Yeah, Zionists or real estate magnates. Okay.
I just want to comment because I don't want it to be more on our screen, the logo, which is hilarious, which only shows the north of America.
Not just North America. I'm sorry. Yes, the north of South America, and this is actually
North America and its backyard. That's what I mean.
Oh, thank you so much, Karim. But yes, it extends from Greenland, taking Canada, the U.S., Mexico, all of Central America, Cuba, the Caribbean, Venezuela, and Colombia, in a map that is eerily similar to the 1930s project for the TechNate of America. There's a map I sent you. Exactly. Wow, look at this. Look at the coincidences, right? It is just what else could it be? What else could we call it? And this, I mean, when I first saw this map, I had to go read a bit into it because, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. It was an actual movement in North America, in Canada and the US between the 1930s and 1940s, before the Second World War, that sought to create a technocracy, right? That encompassed all of this area. Not an empire built by conventional means, but a managed continental system absorbing all of this region. The movement was openly authoritarian, and you know what? Who was one of the leaders of this movement in the 1940s? It was Elon Musk's grandfather, who was one of the leaders, and he was actually, I think, arrested in Canada because at one point they made it illegal, right? Like this movement was made illegal during the Second World War, and now. Wow, we are right back at it. We are right back at it with the Board of Peace, which also, we failed to mention. You want to sit at the Board of Peace? You better shell out $1 billion because Führer Trump, he asks, for admission, for an admission fee. And then one last thing I want to mention very briefly. He among the leaders who have been invited was Vladimir Putin of Russia, who did not really say no, but essentially said, I would pay the fee if, first of all, it's used for the Palestinians, right? He says this first, for the benefit of the Palestinians. And second of all, if it's from or frozen assets, right? So it's not like he doesn't want to pay or join. He just wants to use the money that is frozen by the US. So just something to keep an eye on, because these are comments that he made a couple of hours ago. And yeah, so I don't know what you guys make of all of these big coincidences, right? The TechNet of America and now the Board of Peace.
It's not, like I said, here's a story. He's trying to place the UN. Carney's just come out to say that it was all a lie. Okay, we've undermined international laws and norms all the way along. And now the whole world hates America because he wants to go to Greenland. And now Trump wants to be leader of the world. Not a chance. And actually, there's things in there, for instance, we're thinking this is all about Gaza, right? I mean, that it was raised in the context of Gaza. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have the real estate developers, Kushner and Witkoff on there. So you're like, okay, they're going to take big money to rebuild Gaza. They're going to build it without tunnels. They're going to build it where there's Camp A, Camp B, Camp C, some kind of rubbish, right? Israeli version of what Gaza should look like. But then it turns out, and then there was this like $1 billion joining fee, right, for the Board of Peace. Now that is to be a permanent member, but I'm sure somewhere in the charter it says if Trump doesn't like the country, he can kick them out unilaterally. So $1 billion is for permanent membership. Okay, but then the thought was, when we heard that number, was okay, so that's how people are going to rebuild Gaza. Has any country given the $1 billion? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Argentina did. Like, I'm convinced that they did.
Yeah, or Trump gave him the money to give it to make it look like. I mean, there's in a way, kind of, incredible corruption going on here. Incredible, and just a slight diversion to this $500 million Venezuelan oil sale, the first under U.S. control, right? Where the $500 million is to be kept in a Qatari bank account. Apparently, 300 of it has already been sent to Venezuelan banks. So they have that. The Americans have a 40% cut of that, $200 million kept in Qatar, completely bypassing all U.S. spending laws. Hasn't even come into the U.S. Treasury. What is it, like a black fund, right? A black fund to fund, you remember the whole Oliver North and the money from weapons sales to Iran, whatever, to make money to pay for the Contras so that Congress wouldn't see all this happening. What is that slush fund in Qatar? And it'll be in the billions, right? It'll be in the billions if this continues. What is that slush fund? And here's the thing. I don't think anyone in America can, mouth off about Trump when there's not a single, well, there are a few exceptions. We're talking like on one hand, you can count them, in Congress who are trying to stop his atrocities, right? Across banking, finance, nation grabbing, violating U.S. domestic and international law. What is this? What's Congress doing? They're catatonic, like all of NATO leaders, right? Except Mark Rutte, who just weighed in to say, "I love you, Trumpy. I love you."
He called him daddy a few months ago. I mean, how much power can you get from that?
He called him daddy, and Trump mentioned it in his Davos speech, right?
Yes,
I was it at Davos where he said, "So they call me daddy," and
I
then
think it was because it's
he
recent,
talked
yeah.
about Iceland, right? He forgot that
He
Greenland was the
mentioned it
country he was going
multiple
after.
times. Yes.
Yeah, it's too embarrassing. But Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, came out gushing, right? And by the way, just to pop ahead to this 1 second, I've maintained, well, we had this conversation earlier this week, but not on air. I've maintained that Trump's excessive belligerence, okay, and sort of military talk about taking over Greenland was potentially just a cover for him to get everything he wanted without having to militarily occupy it. Meaning they're so scared, right? Like European nations and NATO are so scared of this being like causing the final rift, right, in the Atlantic Alliance, that they would say, okay, how about we give you first dibs on all resources in Greenland and you get like big chunks of land to have military base for protection of Greenland from Russia and China. This is a negotiating stance too, right? You come in so hard that you shock the other party and they capitulate. They'll take crumbs.
Exactly. What the Belgian Prime Minister said, right? Like there's a difference between being a happy vassal and a miserable slave. And
a lot of European leaders have been talking about slavery to the U.S. lately. Heads of state.
It's a brand new world when all of a sudden you're treated like a person of color. It's completely different. It's completely different reality, and they are in shock. They are just in absolute shock. But before we move on from the Board of Peace, actually, no, I had it here somewhere. I wanted to actually read the member states that have been confirmed. And let me briefly scroll. By the way, in the meantime, just a quickly reminder: make sure to leave that like button. Someone earlier said also that they are that we are on at the same time as Kaborik's Almacian's Syriana analysis, and just to those people, a friendly reminder: you can watch either show after it airs. Right? You pick your own. Just make sure at the end of the day you check out the news roundup. The countries that have confirmed joining are Israel. Wow. Morocco, Argentina, Hungary, Belarus, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Pakistan, Qatar, the UAE, Vietnam, Kazakhstan, Bahrain, Albania, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kosovo, Kuwait, and Paraguay. I mean, this reminds me. Remember when the Joe Biden did the Operation Prosperity Guardian to take on Yemen in the Red Sea? And then they touted it as being like all of the nations that join our naval mission to protect trade routes. And then like their members were like this, like, very pretty.
It's like, well, it becomes like Micronesia and Papua
They were
New
talking about the
Guinea.
Seychelles. The Seychelles has joined the Operation Prosperity Guardian. I mean, like.
By the way, none of these so-called members, I suppose because people were really vacillating about should we join, should we not. So all these global South countries and a lot of Muslim countries that have joined are probably not paying the $1 billion. They're just doing it out of like, okay, let's play along, right? You might find European countries doing it too, right? You might find that.
I don't think so.
But will any one of them pay the $1 billion? Because if they don't, they're not permanent members. They can be booted out at any time.
What I saw was that Canada, UK, I think Italy were not outright refusing to join, but saying like, we would want the money to be used for the benefit of the Palestinians. Kind of similar what Russia said. So essentially leaving the door open, right?
Yeah, don't forget, Trump always brags about Mar-a-Lago, whatever his
Mar-a-Lago.
name.
Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. He always say that if you want to join, you have to put this X amount of money, and you will see like valuable people and important people. I think it's the same idea. And for him, you have to pay money to be part of this board that like somehow for him controls the region. that's my opinion, because he's so predictive now regarding the money. Regarding, as Sharmin said, he always comes hard and then he
Chickens out.
rewinds. Yeah, chickens out. I think he's doing the same thing, because I think this man is already out of ideas. And many people are saying, and even in the Western media, they said that many things that he said during Davos, the 1.5 an hour speech,
My God.
he just came out of stuff. He didn't even sat with his.
He backtracked on Greenland at the end, right? He said we reached an agreement, never actually said what the agreement was.
But
Said
the
the tariffs
point-
are not happening anymore.
He never said Greenland once, if I'm not mistaken. He said
Iceland.
Iceland.
Because he
And
said,
then-
I want a piece of ice, right? That's what he
Yeah.
said at the beginning. I just want a piece of ice.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what will happen.
But maybe, okay, so with the
And
idea,
look,
and
I just want to comment over one thing, which is
Go ahead.
very weird for me. I think this is the first time in recent history the UK declined the invitation of Trump. I think this is significant, because usually UK follows the United States whatever happens. I think this
Ride
is,
or die.
Yeah, this is the first time. Yani, they joined them in all wars and everything. They followed the United States, whatever the.
Maybe they're getting ready to kill him.
You think that,
remember,
The,
he's
the
again
British are
putting
behind
up-
everything bad that's happening. I'm not kidding you. In the end, if you look at it, it was a British idea, American execution.
I will say to your point, Charmin, he just gave an interview with Fox News, I think, in which he said, if Iran kills me, I have already given the order to destroy the country, to wipe it off the map. And this is the same thing he said last year. And then during the campaign trail, when he got his ear blown off in that college campus. So it's like a recurring theme, right? That if he gets killed, it's going to be Iran. But I think we really should get into the discussion of Davos, because I wholeheartedly agree with your statement, Charmin. This Board of Peace is dead on arrival. It's just, we've seen it before. And I think it comes at such an interesting time, because if Donald Trump backtracked on his threats against Greenland, at least momentarily, as he usually does, it's probably because all of a sudden in Davos, you had a bunch of Western leaders talking about decoupling from the US in different ways, right? And even discussions within the EU in particular about dumping US treasuries, which is also a topic that maybe we should discuss as well in the context of all of this. But of course, the noisiest speech in Davos was the one from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, in which he said, this is a rupture, not a transition. We were okay with the system of subjugation, of exploitation, of sanctions, of war, etc., as long as it benefited us. All of a sudden, it doesn't benefit us. We're not okay with it. We need to find a new system. We need to denounce it. Everyone heard the speech, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, the only thing that would have made that more perfect if he'd come out and said, I totally condemn Israel. I kept quiet about it. And this was the beginning of the end for us. Because in fact, it all started fracturing 2 years ago,
Yes.
didn't it? The whole world order started fracturing over the blatant daily violation of international laws and conventions every single day. Nobody could say anything anymore. And I mean, of course, people are pointing out greatest speech ever, except for this part. And it's true. If he had said that, that would have been fantastic. Really. He needed to bring that in because Israel is such a key component of why international law has been ignored for so long, because it is the most flagrant violator. Like I said, hundreds and hundreds of violations of actual UN resolutions. There is no other country that comes close. And that in itself should have been, something that Carney mentioned. And of course he failed too, because they'll go after the American president. They'll go after America. Yeah. They'll sanction America. They might even try to kill him. And they'll pull out, from the U.S. bond market, right? And U.S. securities, and they'll dump the dollar. But they won't mention that Israel's bad. That's what blows my mind.
I mean, Carney, a banker, a former governor of the Bank of England, he was governor of the Bank of England when they stole Venezuela's gold reserves. I mean, what can you
Five
expect out of this
billion.
man?
5 billion
And,
of poor
and
Venezuela's gold.
another man, a man also that I forget who pointed it out. It was someone in the news cycles who pointed it out that Mark Carney is also is only in power in Canada because of Trump's threats to annex Canada. Because before those comments last year, it was actually the other guy, Polievre, who was leading in the polls, right? Because Trudeau essentially blew up all the support that existed for the Liberals here in Canada. And then all of a sudden the tides turned thanks to Donald Trump. And this is the man who now is like, I mean, it's really kind of sickening to see all of the praise that he has gotten for essentially saying, yeah, we knew this was a farce, but it benefited us. And now it doesn't. So, yeah, let's call it out for what it is. And you also had Macron, doing his best Top Gun cosplay, giving similar comments. You had a bunch of leaders. I think the Finnish leader also said something about Europe can defend himself. The Belgian leader who said, we should also start a trade war. That's what he said. He's also the one with the happy vassals is not the same as miserable slaves. Who else? Well, I mean, you had numerous statements there in Davos. It really seems that the Atlantic Alliance has crumbled, right?
You know who wasn't there?
Bibi
Netanyahu. The Swiss government said they would uphold the ICC criminal warrant.
Yeah.
Yes. That was quite interesting. That was really interesting.
It is actually, yeah. Very interesting. At the same time, apparently now in Australia, you can get in trouble for criticizing Netanyahu. So it's very good point, Charmaine, the one you made. The genocide in Gaza really is the break. And this is something that here at the Cradle we have been saying almost from the start. Almost from the start, we have been saying this is the divergent point, right? This is where the reality diverges from the tale that lives in the minds of Westerners in particular, right? That the world is just, that law is respected, that this and that and all of that. Israel blew that up out of existence, and now we are trying to pick up the pieces, I guess. Okay, guys, so...
I wanted to comment over something that I always often say, and Charmaine criticized me, but I will say it anyway. I think we are facing the same problem. It's not economic, of course. We're facing a political catastrophe of this board because nobody will stand, unfortunately, against the United States. And the thing that I want to say that there is no other alternative. So what's happening is that the United States put the laws or for instance, put the banking system and the transaction system, and they dominate because unfortunately there is no alternative. The same thing over this peace board. Everybody, and we might think that it might not happen, but also we have to think that there's no alternative. Why it shouldn't happen? Why there's no other path that the Palestinians or the surrounding countries that can take. There's only the board piece of Trump, and I think this is one of the problems that the whole world is facing, not also only in our region.
So thanks to Karim's carping on about this, there's nothing else out there, so we have to suck it up. We are actually commissioned an article by a Turkish writer which will be out tomorrow. It's a analysis investigation to what are the alternatives out there, what are the trading platforms and the sort of transaction platforms. And yes, we have said everyone hasn't dumped the dollar and is trading in yuan or rupees or rubles or tamans or dirhams. Yes, we know that. But here's what I always say about Trump. Trump is the great accelerator of all things. In 1 year, he has almost collapsed the Atlantic Alliance. Okay? In 1 year, Israel has become...
Pariah.
Well, no, that started even before him. Pariah, whatever. It worsened, right? It didn't get better.
It didn't get better, exactly. It didn't get better.
He's not able to... he's not able to wage war against Iran. I mean, what I'm saying is there's a lot of paper tigering going on here. Okay. So Trump will accelerate the use of other currencies to transact now, even among European states and other states. Okay. They always held up the dollar, but Denmark's going to, withdraw from or dump U.S. issued bonds. India says they are going to dump U.S. bonds, right? Securities.
The Danish pension fund as well.
Japan is being forced to because its economy is taking hit after hit, and that's the balance sheet for Western economies has not sort of been called in yet. It can be done anytime, in the months ahead. Things are getting disastrous for them. All right. Once people start getting out of US bonds, how does the country do after that? Oh, okay. Everybody else will jump on board. Here's what I said in one of the earlier podcasts. The word that everyone should be using, everyone, viewers, us, commentators everywhere, is de-risking from the United States. Risking, okay? To de-risk means, and this is something everyone's looking at in Western financial centers as well, they are flabbergasted by the shitstorm coming out of the White House. It's hitting them everywhere. He no longer cares about these globalist billionaires. He just doesn't. Only his billionaires, right? And so they're all taking this. They're all caught up in the tsunami where predictability doesn't exist anymore. Predictability is their bread and butter, right?
Yeah,
and
that's what the Chinese said at Davos.
Yeah, and let me tell you, the first people who look at risk anytime are people in the financial sector, whether it's insurance, whether it's like banking, risk has to be factored into your predictions for Q1, Q2, Q3. Do you see what I mean? And they are looking on how to de-risk from the black swan that we didn't expect. The U.S. absolutely going rogue on their own allies.
It's a very important word, the one you use, not the de-risking, the predictability. Because it's something that the Chinese envoy said at Davos, it's something that Macron said, it's something that other leaders were talking about. I was going to just very quickly, again, remind viewers to make sure to hit that like button. And I love the interactions in our chat. Our viewers are very funny. Just a couple of hours ago, apparently, I'm just seeing that now, Donald Trump told Fox Business that if European market or European nations begin offloading American stocks and bonds, there would be a big retaliation on our part. These are his words. This is, of course, after the Akademiker pension, a Danish fund, announced that they would dump about 100 million in U.S. treasuries. And also, very briefly, let me mention that among the many speeches on Tuesday at Davos was also the one from Scott Bessent, the head of the U.S. Treasury, in which he said, well, first of all, he called Denmark irrelevant. And then I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the actual Mark quote here, but I heard it a few times, in which he said, I would recommend that you keep this hysteria in check and just continue with the trade deals that we have already reached, because we saw last year that, and he made reference to the escalation that happened between China and the US. But then he actually never spoke about the outcome of said escalation, which was China now faces considerably reduced tariffs to even some of the US's largest partners or longest, historical partners.
India couldn't get over that. India
Exactly.
is just flabbergasted by that.
Why is that? Because China stood up to the bully and just went tit for tat. And Scott Bessent essentially telling the rest of the world, don't even think about doing that because what? Because why? There's actually no follow-up to that statement.
Well, everyone else is also weaker than China. Let's also admit that, right? China has a lot. Its fingers on a lot. In terms of, you need, it's building out an incredible military, right? It's everything it doesn't produce, it's now producing. Do you know what I mean? Anything that the Americans try to ban, the Chinese say, fine, that's fine, ban it. We'll do it ourselves, right? It's the trading partner for 100 and something nations in the world, the top trading partner. It's true. It's not Denmark, even England. I mean, what's England and France? They can't stand up to the Americans, but collectively they can. And that, by the way, is a call that's happening on the African continent. It's like one country might not be able to stand up to France even, right? Though they are, right? This is new, they are. Country after country in the Sahel and elsewhere. But 55 countries, America can't do anything. Right?
It's a slow march. I see Karim's points. I don't disagree with him. I see what he means when he says, there's really no other options right now, because the framework is still being built, right? And it takes a while for civilizational changes. I think you said this before, Charmaine, that it takes a very long time. But I just want to point something out. Last week, it was announced that Zambia, the African nation, is gonna start allowing Chinese mining companies to pay taxes in the yuan, no longer in the US dollar. So these are incremental changes that are happening everywhere across the world, and you don't often hear about them. But people are desperate. The fact that the Europeans are coming out and saying, hey, maybe we should sell US treasuries means that there's a very long list of other movements by other nations that are considered by the West to be irrelevant that have already started moving in that direction.
The BRICS is one.
Yeah, I think that they are not desperate. They are afraid. They are terrified. Any time or any given time, if Trump is pissed out of a country, he can put sanctions and weaken their economy, which is insane. Previously, as I mentioned, usually, the United States is a big hegemony, and they are work only for their interest, and they killed and invaded many countries for their interest or for the interest of Israel. But at least you feel that there's politicians or there's people that understands what's happening in the world, and they commit these things. Now things are being committed just because Trump wants to. You know what I mean? We've of course, Charmaine before me, she's been in politics and geopolitics for many years. Yes, Charmaine? But I don't think that you heard about that the United States wanted Greenland before Trump. You know what I mean? It's a sudden thing, for instance, and what sorry, I'm laughing because what he did in Venezuela, which is tragic but also funny, that he just took out the president and his wife, which is insane.
What's it
also
called? Tragic comedy, isn't there a word like that?
Yeah,
Tragic
there is
comedy.
a word.
It's just beyond comprehension.
So we and NATO, for instance, not a sane person in the world in the past 50 years at least would tell you that the United States will work upon weakening NATO. Their first goal since and even after the fall down of the USSR is to expand NATO. This is their goal. Imagine that Russia invaded Ukraine because there was a chance of Ukraine joining NATO. Imagine this war happened because of a possibility of a country joining NATO that borders to Russia, and now NATO is weaker than ever. It's insane. It's all because of one guy. So that's what I wanted to say. People will eventually in the following 3 years, I think more and more, not only countries and companies and major companies will go away from the dollar because they are terrified of one person who's called Donald Trump.
Interestingly enough, Karim, to your point, the usual Beirut blackouts. Thank you, Josefa Una Waf Salam.
But Charmaine is still shining.
As are you. I wanted to say very quickly, interestingly enough, in the morning today, our social media team published a video from 2018 in which Netanyahu is giving a speech. And before closing it, he just turns to the map and says, what about Greenland? What are we going to do about Greenland? We got to do something about Greenland. So, yes, on the one hand, it's a bit sudden, I guess, your point, Karim. But on the other, it's, even from what we just showed, the whole Technate of America, right? This map that predates World War II, there's been this ambition, right?
Yeah. I always say there's a reason all these things are happening, and whether you believe it or not, it's because the unipolar world has been panicking for a good few years.
Yeah.
And they're acting this kinetically because they're absolutely panicked at losing everything, right? Which is why we're seeing the resource grab from Trump, why we're seeing the land grab from Israel. You know, these are powers that don't have the money anymore to do all the things they used to do. Okay, it's not just not having the money anymore. They have opponents on the global stage, right? A new multipolar world, and those the gap between the opponents, militarily, economically, keeps growing. All right, because there's no new innovation coming out of America aside from a few AI billionaires. I'm not kidding. Like, what are they making?
Not even the AI is really innovating. All they're doing is expanding because the innovation is not there.
There was this thing I retweeted yesterday. It was like the two biggest AI billionaires, don't ask me their names, I can't even remember, who were saying like such dangerous things. Like very shortly, AI is going to be programming AI. Like the human element we taken entirely out of the loop. And then there's no need anymore for white collar workers, all right? Or engineers for that matter. And what's that going to do to human civilization? It's insane. They're investing in something that everyone involved in it, right, who has reason to materially benefit from it, are warning humanity about, you know. I just don't know. That's where America is. This is why they're doing everything. When you panic about what's going on in the world, realize that the beast is flailing on its last legs. That's why everyone goes, oh, there's Charmaine with her ridiculous optimism. It's because I'm looking at it from here. I understand what's happening, you know, on the larger scale. On the small scale, it's devastating. It's devastating for people in Venezuela. It's devastating for people in Iran. It's devastating for people in Gaza. It's devastating for people in Ukraine. It is devastating. But the bigger picture shows the world is transitioning away from the beast, all right? The issue has always been, how long will it take and how much pain will we have to endure? But what I like about Trump in particular is he is accelerating the process beyond my wildest imagination. You're one, Esteban. What can we expect in 2026? Do you know?
Oof, I mean, year 2 of Donald Trump started 2 days ago. My goodness. And like, how can we survive anymore? And I think, you know, at the end of the day, we each have our own perspective, right? Like, of course, everybody here respects your what you're saying, Charmaine. And sometimes it's difficult to
But
really,
you don't
know.
agree.
No, I mean,
I just want to add something about what Charmaine said. I think also
Go
what
ahead.
defines a superpower in recent years or in recent decades are the universities and the research that comes out of the universities. And this year, ranking of top universities of the world, 7 of them are Chinese, which is the
Chinese,
first time in history.
Yes. I mean, look at just for example, the shipbuilding capabilities, right? Like the U.S. talks so much about war. In the time that they need to build one new warship, China can build over 200. I mean, their engineering, there is different planes of existence at this point, right? Like that's really where the desperation stems from. And I do actually agree with you, Charmaine, in particular, in your view that Trump is the accelerant, right? He's the gasoline being poured on the fire, and it's just gonna get worse and worse. You know, but of course, my perspective is on the worse and worse, not on the after the worse, because unfortunately, you know, we're gonna have to live through it.
Do you know, I just want to mention again, for anyone who wants to read it, it's called Hello to the Cradle, and it's the first thing that went on the cradle that I had written back in 2021. And in it, I actually plucked out one word and decided to focus on it. And that word was efficiency. Okay? What I was noticing then, and had been noticing for a long time, in this region in particular, and then I think that applies globally as well, is one side is showing efficiency, modern day efficiency, and the other side is not.
And predictability. So don't forget about that.
That too, but efficiency. There's nothing that America can do that the new players can't. Eventually, right? America might hold on to it, but there's nothing they can do. Anything they want to
Break
do
the law,
costs
maybe.
a zillion times more, okay? And they also don't have, like I mentioned before when I was in China, China can call on, I can't remember if it's 50 million or 70 million blue-collar workers tomorrow, and they're not unemployed. They move from the central government perspective, they move them from sector to sector, where their development, where their focus is for that fiscal year, for the next 5-year plan, right? They move them. So these people are incredibly skilled. They were working on cell phones one day, solar fields the next day. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The U.S., what's it going to do? Put out a call for we need desalination. It'll take them 100 years
Not
to get
only
together,
that.
and it'll cost them $6 trillion.
Or the
you know?
Golden Dome.
I think
Like,
in recent years a huge shift happened, and I was waiting for it since I was young because I knew it was coming. And Wallah Sharmin, since I was like 12 years old. And I think what was reached in recent years, and people don't talk about it, yeah, drink, is that China reached, our Chinese people reached a place or a level that they don't need to leave their countries. The United States have been investing and constructing and acquiring technology from smart people that comes abroad. And if you're a smart Chinese, for instance, in the 90s, and you can go to a university or a tech company in the United States and get a $1 million salary, you would do it. And this is still happening in many countries, including India. But currently, China reached a point. If I am a Chinese genius, for instance, there is no reason for me to go to the United States anymore, even if they pay me. Now my country is more clean. My country is more advanced. The law in my country benefits me.
Better standard of
better
living.
standard
Yeah.
living, of health, of everything. So I think this is a big deal. I think there's a big blow also for the United States. Now the United States is failing and will fail more and more in the future because this graph is going up to acquire smart people from abroad. If I am smart, what will you give me as an American? A salary? But if I'm going to a pub, I might be shot dead, for instance.
Exactly. Or how long before ICE
yeah,
burst down into my apartment?
100%. If my kids reach like 12, 13 years old, maybe they will be drug addicts, for instance. And the disrespect of the Americans that is now spreading in the world is insane. And even now, Europeans don't respect Americans. Who will respect the Americans? Of course, they still have the Gulf countries, but till when?
Till when? Guys, let me quickly just mention, there's reports that the USS Abraham Lincoln has entered the area of operation of the Central Command in the Arabian Sea. This is what I'm seeing on social media. I haven't actually seen any confirmation by CENTCOM, but it was expected to arrive. We have also seen reports just recently that Donald Trump has been asking his aides for a decisive strike plan against Iran. So we have said here, and for a long time, the attack against Iran is still coming. We'll have to see if there's a response or even a preemptive attack from the Islamic Republic. Guys, I want to ask you about something that also broke this week, and is the India-UAE pact.
Oh, wait, before you go to that, which is super important, I
Yeah.
just want to say, there is the thinking militarily that, things have changed a lot. You used to bring the big aircraft carriers to regions of war. But in the case of the Persian Gulf, that has the conventional wisdom on that is different than in other theaters because of Iran's missile capabilities. So actually bringing an U.S. aircraft carrier into the waterways around Iran has to some become an indication that there won't be a war, because obviously Iran will seek to destroy that carrier. This has been war gamed by the United States for several decades now. Mm-hmm. And, I've referred to the Millennium Challenge war game, I think at the time Pentagon's most expensive war game ever, and I think it was in the year 2000 or 2002. And in 48 hours, Iran took out all of the U.S.'s naval assets, or most of them, in the Persian Gulf region. And so they had to stop the game because they lost in 48 hours and restart it with new rules, etc. And we know about it only because the head of the so-called, the Iran side in that war game, a U.S. colonel, resigned and went public with the information. So an aircraft carrier going to those waters doesn't, to me, suggest war. It might even suggest the opposite.
But also, Sharmeen, they won because they had the American mentality with Iranian weapons. If the Iranians continue on their mentality, and for instance, last time they bombed them, they didn't bomb aircraft carriers, for instance, or any assets. They only bombed Qatar.
Were there were there aircraft carriers in the?
Of course, there
no,
were battle
no.
assets.
Let's
Sharmeen,
check that.
to-
Let's
to
check
bomb.
that.
In the
Are-
Red Sea, there were. I'm not sure if there were in the.
Yeah.
In the.
Yeah,
I mean, the
so-
Americans know for decades that they can't do that, and also there was
Yeah,
warning
but-
about mines in the Persian Gulf. That's not where they're going to be.
Yeah,
Where
but
is
it's
the
about
USS
the
Abraham?
mentality, the
Abraham's
mentality.
Accord. No, where is the USS Abraham's Accord? Where is that?
Let me call them. لحظة. I don't know.
No, is it in the Red Seas in the Persian Gulf? I don't know. What is it?
Now, currently,
Yeah.
I don't know.
we
Like
don't
some people
know.
in the comments were saying
Allah,
that
we can research, yani.
trackers were saying they're still in the somewhere around Indonesia, but I'm pretty sure they're already near, if not already at the CENTCOM. The operation I'm checking in the person. Hold on, doing.
Oh, somebody's asking for an update on Lebanon. Massive bombing yesterday. What kind, in
The USS Nimitz. The
congested-
USS Nimitz was in the Persian Gulf during the 12-day conflict. One
See,
was.
Sharmeen? This is the point, and the difference is that the United States, if somebody is coming to me running, if I'm an American, I will get my gun and shoot him. The Iranian will keep waiting
Wait to
for
be
him to
shot.
approach and tell them, what's the problem? And then, you know what I mean? This is
No,
the
I think
difference.
that's wrong. I think that's wrong. I think it's really clear to both sides that if the U.S. and Iran decide to go full on, you see, that was also at a time Iran's one strike on U.S. targets was right at the end, right? And if they had sunk a U.S. aircraft carrier, it wouldn't have wrapped up. Do you get what I mean? So that's also a consideration. But if they go into full on, if the U.S. is not Israel, the U.S. is attacking Iran, those aircraft carriers something's going to happen to them. Sorry, what were we saying? Yes,
You were giving an update about Lebanon, which I do think is important because, of course, the situation is
Yeah.
truly catastrophic.
Kareem. Yes. Do you want to talk about that? Because last night we saw terrible
were-
bombings in congested areas. I mean,
Yes,
like in terms
yeah.
of apartment
Yeah.
buildings, very very densely populated.
Populated areas, yeah.
They bombed like insane. I was trying to grab the video to put it. Yeah, they bombed in several places, and even Sputnik. Journalist
yes, the
was
correspondent.
injured.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they were injured.
Saw that.
Everything was captured on camera, and they bombed just residential buildings. And previously, there's a lot of bombings and assassinations with small missiles, and usually they bomb like between mountains and hills. But yesterday it was residential, and there's many people that lived in this areas tried to escape, and now they are refugees again. And also, don't forget that we have something called the mechanism. I think we haven't talked about it a long time, so I want to refresh our audiences. It's related to the same topic. There's a mechanism in Lebanon that has the Lebanese army, the Israeli army, and France and the United States. So this mechanism purpose is to coordinate between the Lebanese government, army, and the Israelis. So I know, Sharmeen, but people should know what happened and what is happening. So the mechanism, usually they know when and where Israel will bomb. But if it's assassination, of course, the Israelis will not know. So the Israelis said that we want to bomb this place, and the army goes, and the UN soldiers in Lebanon, they went there and they said, okay, we want to see if there is weapons, let us check. And Israel didn't even let them check, and that's why a journalist was injured, because the strikes were not expected at that time, because people thought, okay, they will leave this mechanism that's sole purpose is to protect Lebanon, and it always failed. So that's what's happening in Lebanon. Israel is bombing. They are not listening to the United States because they are part of the mechanism. They are not listening to the UN. They are not listening to anybody. And still here in Lebanon, we hear voices every now and then on TVs, on everywhere.
The foreign minister,
calling
himself.
upon Hezbollah to hand over their weapons, and plus, as Esteban said last week, the foreign minister, and I sent it to Sharmin also, he said that Israel has the right to bomb Lebanon because Hezbollah didn't hand over their weapons. So we're living in Jordan 2.0. That's what I call my country now, Jordan 2.0. And also, just today, we have a fellow journalist that was also
yes. Summoned. Let me mention that quickly because I have it up here,
Okay.
Sharmin, Karim, and I sent the email.
I just wanted to. So currently, Lebanon is being bombed. People are still being killed, and we are not even allowed to talk
And
about it.
displaced.
And you know, at the same time, while the foreign minister is saying that Lebanon deserves to be bombed, today the prosecutor of the Court of Cassation summoned journalist Hassan Ilaik, a friend, Hassan Ilaik, friend of the Cradle, a very amazing journalist, to appear before the Criminal Investigation Department because of criticism he lobbied against President Joseph Aoun. This is the second journalist that is a friend of ours, friend of the Cradle, the second friend of the Cradle that is slapped with a criminal investigation by Mr. Joseph Aoun. The first one, while he was head of the Lebanese Armed Forces, he was Radwan Mortada. Now Hassan Ilaik, because he criticizes the inaction of the Lebanese government, the absolute submission towards the designs, not just of the US, but of the Israeli occupation. In the south of Lebanon, we are witnessing ethnic cleansing. That has to be the term that we use. It is truly a horrific situation that it just continues to go unchecked. So our full support to Hassan and our full condemnation to President Aoun.
Just
Yeah, and
interesting because it was just
yes, I will put the video. Just you can talk. I will put the video. This video is one of the bombings that Israel conducted on south of Lebanon yesterday.
So just to let you all know, just a few days ago, I went to the military court in Beirut to accompany Radwan Mortada, a friend of mine, obviously, and with the Cradle Arabic, and they wouldn't let me in, and actually I had a fight with a soldier who broke my phone, and I filed a complaint against him, and I'm going to go to meet a judge there to rule on that. But Radwan Mortada's case, after over a year, was it 2 years? I don't know.
Oh, it's more. At this point, it's like 3 years, no?
Is it? Because
Yeah, it's a long time.
he was viewed as having criticized then Joseph Aoun, who was then the military commander of the Lebanese Armed Forces. It is not in the
right?
Yeah, it is not in the jurisdiction of the Lebanese military to try journalists. Okay,
He's not even an elected official. He was appointed under threat of war, under threat of with a gun to the head of the country. He was appointed under pressure. Let's not forget that he was.
let me
not,
tell you, there's
Go ahead.
there's nowhere in this country. If you look at what's happening in Parliament right now, we need to shine a light on this. Our viewers and readers don't care that much about Lebanon. It's so frustrating to us, but you cannot imagine what's happening in Parliament now, like laws on banking, finance, and other things being passed. And I don't care which politician I'm talking to in this country, they are all saying we have never seen anything like this. The U.S. Embassy comes in and tells us, gives us our bills, tells us what to do. This is something that Joseph Aoun has allowed in this country. And we can't criticize you?
It's been a while. It's been a while that he's had this attitude. We'll never forget his friendly pictures with Dorothy Shea, the now envoy to the UN from the US. Go to the Cradle, go to thecradle.co. I think we are just in a few minutes, we will have a story about the persecution of journalists in Lebanon, in particular in the case of Hassan Ilaik. I'm completely butchering his name. I'm very sorry. So go and check it out.
Can
so
he
yeah,
give us his name properly?
let's say it properly, Karim.
Hassan Alli.
Oh, bravo, bravo. That deserves all of the likes. Make sure to hit that like button. And also, thank you to everyone who has sent a super chat, by the way, as well. We've had a couple. Thank you very much for contributing. And again, a friendly reminder to go check out our Patreon and become a member if you can. We really do need your support, especially, given the questionable situation as far as press freedom inside of Lebanon and, well, the rest of the world. Let's move on, guys. Let's move on to the UAE India
Can
pact.
I talk about Lebanon a little bit? Just 1 minute. I'm Lebanese.
I'm sure the people will love to hear you, Karim. Yeah, go ahead.
I know, as Sharmin said, we are frustrated because people don't care about Lebanon, but Lebanese politics, besides, put aside the tragic war and what's happening, currently in Lebanon, there's a very funny story that's happening that never happened in the world, is that there's a cleric who has an accent who has a Saudi accent. He knows how to imitate voices and make accents. So currently in Lebanon, all Sunni politicians, okay, this is very funny and you can go look it. It's a rabbit hole, it's insane. So this guy, he's from the north of Lebanon, but he knows how to talk like Saudi Arabian person. So he acquired mobile number of all Sunni politicians in Lebanon, and he called them one by one, and he demanded money. And he told them, "Hello, Makhzoumi, for instance, if you give me $100,000, I will talk to Mohammed bin Salman or
Oh my
Turki
God,
Al Sheikh
that was
or
amazing,
whatever."
yeah.
Yeah, and I will.
He got their money.
he got
He got their money.
everybody paid. Just like that thing. And
Kenny,
every
why
Sunni
can't you do this
politician-
for the cradle? Why?
I am Sharmin.
Where can
I
you
know how
I
to
am Abdul Razak, something or other. Just go get money.
Sharmin, I barely have a Lebanese accent, Sharmin.
Guys, by the
So
way,
that is something that happened in Lebanon. Now they are like seeing who paid who and whatever, and that's it.
Guys, someone in the comments, Matt's YouTube channel actually reminded us of a very important topic that I don't know if you guys have been able to confirm yet. I'm trying to see if I can find
AUB.
anything. And it's, yes, the
Thanks,
reports
Matt.
that the American University of Beirut has canceled an appearance by UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese. This is insane. It's huge too if it turns out to be true. There's only one source so far, which is AUB professor Assad Abu Khalil, who said the American University of
Yeah.
Beirut has just banned Francesca Albanese from speaking on its campus.
So we were looking into this as soon as we saw that, and what I've ascertained so far is that she will be speaking at the University of San Joseph. What is it? USJ next Thursday for anyone who wants to go. Now, what I'm trying to find out is if she was never allowed to be scheduled at AUB, or if they had scheduled it, but then AUB said it can't go ahead. There's a distinction. I mean, this goes back quite a few years with AUB, this issue. The U.S. government contributes funds to the American University of Beirut. And so it has increasingly determined who can or cannot speak at AUB on the AUB campus, who can teach at AUB campus, who cannot teach at AUB campus. So this is quite awful. There's no independence to this. The current, also shitty president of AUB, okay, from the same cloth of Joseph Aoun, all right, just a big sellout, has basically made this, taking marching orders from the U.S. Embassy. And just, not that long ago, Professor Marandi, Mohammed Marandi, who when I met him, was doing a sabbatical at AUB, like 2010, 2011, was invited by the BBC. The BBC was doing one of their debate shows on the AUB campus in Beirut. And they called me and asked me if I can sit in, if I can participate. I'm like, I thought you had your lineup. And they're like, yes, but AUB said no to Marandi. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Y'all should move if AUB says no. In fact, they did move and Marandi participated. But this is how much AUB sort of like panders, little lapdogs to the American embassy. Now, with Francesca Albanese, she has been sanctioned by the U.S. government, by Treasury, right? She is.
Yes, it's a sanction. Yes.
They've gone all out. So, in that sense, U.S. funded organizations cannot host people who are sanctioned by the U.S. government. That could be an immediate difference between her and someone else who they just don't want to hear, like a pro-Palestinian speaker in the American embassy says no, or, or the U.S. officials intervene. This is, pretty logical to me. But AUB should be a Lebanese university. By the way, when the American empire falls, one of the first things that should happen in Beirut is the nationalization of the American University of Beirut. 100%. You cannot believe how that institution's gone downhill. Oh, bunch of idiots running this country.
Your words to God's ears. Honestly. Okay, finally, let's we've taken enough detours. Let's talk about the UAE-India pact. A very important development. I don't know, Karim, if we have an image that I think you shared this, Sharmeen, a couple of days ago that showed kind of like the idea behind the UAE, what their movements in Yemen, right, to kind of block off Saudi Arabia and all the maritime routes. But on Monday, another map. On Monday, the two sides, UAE and India, MBZ and Narendra Modi met in New Delhi and signed a deal that, for nuclear cooperation, development, and the deployment of large nuclear reactors, and also the goal to double bilateral trade to $200 billion by 2032. This has got to be understood within the context of the Saudi, Pakistani, Turkish nuclear protection agreement that is still, I think it's still being drafted. The Saudi Arabia-Pakistani agreement is already set. It's already been announced and agreed to. The inclusion of Turkey is what's still being under discussion, although from what we've heard, it's pretty much going to happen.
We're going to have an answer on that. Just to let you know, Esteban, on Monday, our Pakistani correspondent, MK Shakil, sorry, what did I say? FM Shakil. Can we delete this? I love him. Our Pakistani correspondent, FM Shakil, will be writing a piece that started specifically about this. What is this new military pact between the Saudis, the Pakistanis, and the new entrants, the Turks, involved with? Is this not too much? Because it's not like, the Saudis and Turks have been regional rivals as well, not unfriendly, but regional rivals for a great many years. Why would they need to solidify military, right? Like a foundational military agreement? That makes no sense. So FM Shakil will give us these answers on Monday in our feature. Look out for that. But he's also added in what's happening with this new India UAE thing. And we are actually in touch with some people, or trying to get in touch with some people who are writing a lot about India, Pakistan, and the UAE. The UAE is going full on into new theaters where maybe people need money or people want something else from the UAE, right? It does have stuff to offer. But the more it pushes, because the Saudis have pushed it out of their normal stomping ground, right? They're pushing them out of Yemen. They're pushing them out of Sudan, Somalia, Djibouti now. There were clashes and everyone's coming to play. The Saudis are going around, plus their allies, basically the entire region, with the exception of the UAE and Israel, all right, are united against the UAE and Israel on what's been happening. India steps in, and Modi, my God, retire him. He is miscalculating in such a big way, right? He should be mending things with China, not jumping on board with Israel. And the most reviled Arab country in this region, which is the UAE. I'm talking about universally reviled now. It's quite astounding. That just happened within the space of 30 days. There is, by the way, just to carry on from the story, other than the Indians and the Israelis and the UAE Emiratis doing a pact to some kind of military agreements and money agreements and stuff together. Way to align yourself with the two biggest pariahs in this region, right? Just to counter Pakistan in some crazy way. There is a lot of chatter about the removal of Mohammed bin Zayed, who was president of Abu Dhabi.
Interesting.
He's president of the UAE.
He's the president of the UAE. Yes.
And replacing
The names are
him
not
with the
working with
leader
you
of the
today.
of Dubai or someone else. They're actually talking about replacing him.
Dubai is another family who rules Dubai. He rules the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed.
Right. So, but he's considered
He's
Abu
everything.
Dhabi, which is in charge
the
of
point
foreign
is
policy for the UAE.
It wasn't the case. This happened in 2008 because Dubai was bankrupt after the crisis in the United States and the West. And he came and gave the money. So now he's the one man show.
My issue is I forgot because his
it's
dad
okay.
died, and it's what are they president? What,
2
I don't know
days,
what they named him.
2 years ago.
Let me ask you something, Charmaine. Actually, I don't know what your
Yeah.
take on this is, because this new axis, right? And actually, I would direct our viewers to go to the Cradle also and check out our recent feature that was I forget the actual title of it, but it spoke about the different axes that are emerging in West Asia. But UAE and India, both BRICS members, and forming now this alliance. On the other hand, Saudi, on the doorstep of BRICS, still hasn't actually joined. Turkey, NATO member, and Pakistan. Is Pakistan a member of BRICS? I don't know. I don't know how like these alliances will also, maybe fracture.
Pakistan and importantly, Pakistan and India are both permanent members of the SCO, which is only I think a 10-member organization, but focused on defense and security and counterterrorism in particular. Okay, not like the BRICS, which is like a loose organization of countries looking for economic cooperation, economic growth. Really, that's, they're very different organizations. And to become a member of the SCO is a big deal. To become a member of the BRICS is apparently not going to be such a big deal anymore. But them being, if India and Pakistan together in the same organization, it doesn't mean anything. The great thing about the SCO, about those two countries being members of an organization like the SCO, where you have countries like Russia and China and Iran and like Central Asian countries that have relations with India and Pakistan, soft power relations, right? There's the hope that building on those kind of relations, deepening military, defense, and security cooperation, trade, etc., can, sort of fray away at the divisive lines, dividing lines between. So undoubtedly, when Pakistan, India were, at it, right, in that hot air war recently, flash war, last year. Undoubtedly, the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians and others were jumping in from the SCO to try to lessen that. Of course, Trump took all the credit, and India said, no way, he didn't do it. Jesus, Modi insulted India, and now he's cozying up to Israel and the UAE. The guy needs to be put away.
Yes, I don't disagree with you there. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Karim, or we can move on. There's one last topic I would like us to discuss.
We've often are talking about the rivalry between Saudi Arabia and the UAE and went to the surface now, and that's one of it, because we know that Pakistan always they pledge to defend Saudi Arabia no matter what, and they even send their expert military personnel and even fighters during the Saudi-Yemeni war that started in 2015. And now I think UAE, in their mind, they are creating a balance. Okay, Saudi Arabia is with Pakistan in this way, we can go with India. That's one. And I think it's different than SEO and the BRICS because it's formed between these two countries. Yes?
What?
Is there a third country?
Third country? With where? With what?
The pact between India and UAE.
So far, no. It's just the two.
Yeah, exactly, man. That explains many things. And there's plans between these two countries that acquire them to be
But look how
like
India
an
is
association.
immediately alienating Saudi Arabia over this. It's not a smart decision, and it did it for other considerations. No,
everybody knows
the Indians
that,
are trying to make up for their big perceived loss against Pakistan, and now Pakistan is selling these co-produced with China fighter jets, right? Like people
Yeah, but
putting
The
orders
Pakistan-
left, right, and center.
right? The
Pakistan is
J-17.
very important for Saudi Arabia, and I think Indians know that. Yani, the Saudi Arabians will not
But that
ditch,
does not
Pakistan
preclude
for India.
Saudi
no way.
Arabia having good relations with India for many, many decades. What I'm saying is, it was such a dumb move when Saudi Arabia isn't.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's
fighting
not dumb.
for 'em
yani.
right now. You know,
I'm not
you don't
saying
go
it's
and-
not dumb, yani, but
Yeah.
I think this is part of what we have been saying in the past month, and
Yeah.
maybe more countries will come abroad. Yani, any country that prefers India over Pakistan. And it's not only, and I think what's happening now, it's
Well,
not only
neither are
about
much
our
to write
region.
home about lately.
It's expanding now. It's going to Central Asia. It's not only about Arab countries. That's one. And I just a fact that there is 5 million Indians in UAE and there is 1 million UAE citizens in the UAE. That's it.
So, guys,
they were forced to do this deal.
yeah. Well, again, reminder to everyone to leave a like. Please make sure to hit that like button if you haven't yet. To check out our memberships, and above all, check out our Patreon. We are gonna drill this into your skull. Please, if you can become a Patreon member, do so. Help us continue to do the work that we do here and bring you the news, such as the news that, actually, the liberation, the jailbreak of thousands of ISIS fighters in Syria. Following the offensive against the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces, as we discussed on Monday's podcast, being let go by the U.S. Again, the Kurds abandoned by their U.S. employers, and now we have had reports, we have had videos, statements, witnesses of the release of thousands of ISIS fighters who were being held in Kurdish-run prisons in Al-Shadadi prison. I'm hoping I'm saying the right name, and also Al-Haul camp in Hasaka governorate in Syria, which housed at least 25,000 members of ISIS and their families, whom the West in particular had refused to repatriate following the defeat of ISIS so many years ago. Now it seems like Julani has his army ready, his ISIS army. Let's remember that in particular, Al-Haul camp was referred to by U.S. authorities as an ISIS army in waiting. It seems like the in waiting part is no more because they are free. Although there's still some reports that is not essentially everyone, that it's just been a certain number that have essentially broke out of prison, that there's attempts to recapture them. Now there's also reports that CENTCOM announced yesterday that they would begin transferring a certain number of ISIS fighters from Syria to Iraq. Iraq in particular is very concerned about these latest developments. They are really reinforcing their borders. So this is the context. What do you guys make of this situation now in Syria?
I don't think people should jump to too many conclusions yet. We don't know who's using this and who's doing what. I mean, really, the picture has not cleared yet. I want to, that needs to be understood before we delve into or jump into
Conclusions?
analyzing this. Yeah, conclusions. The release of ISIS fighters and HTS's jihadis being delighted about that and aiding in it is an absolute possibility. They've done it before.
Do you have any of the images, Karim, just so we can, as we hear Charmin's...
But we were looking at the images. There's a lot of women and civilians in those images. They're not clear. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's not. They're not conclusive. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying it's not conclusive. Just as what is not conclusive is that this is because a lot of Kurdish commentators yesterday were saying and sort of disseminating this information that Tom Barak, the U.S. envoy to Syria and Turkey, who
gave the green light, right?
Who sees himself as a Sykes, the next Sykes-Picot. It's going to be the Barak carving up
the
of
Barak
the
Trump
Levant.
lines.
Yeah.
Or Kushner.
Yeah. So he he sat in a meeting with Kurdish leaders, including Barzani in Iraq, right, and the Abdi from the Syrian, the SDF in Syria, and basically, they were thinking of Americans are going to come in and save them from a deal, and he basically said, I want you guys to, work with ISIS fighters to go and take care of the Hashd al-Shabi, the popular mobilization units, in Iraq, like basically fight. Well, what was just stop what the whole region worked? Well, many in the region worked to stop, right? Defeat of ISIS, and so I don't know how much of that is true. I mean, they're now writing it. From the rumors, it went into like details. Barak said this, and then Barzani said that, and the look on their faces, they were so shocked. The Americans are basically throwing them to the wolves and saying, either you become our mercenaries or to hell with you, right? That picture's not clear. That's all I'm saying. The other thing is, in this, I think a lot of people went, aha, see, the Americans are sending ISIS prisoners into Iraq. Let me point out that during much of the Syrian war and and the ISIS war and whatever in Iraq, the Syrian government and the Iraqi government did want ISIS fighters jailed elsewhere, to be handed to their governments for interrogation, for trials, for punishment, for information
Sometimes
gathering.
just for repatriation. Sometimes.
No, let's assume now that both governments were actually anti-ISIS and needed this to, to figure out things, to, figure out plans, to dole out punishments, because to this day, Iraqis are saying, we haven't been compensated at all, we've lost so many family members, etc., people are disappeared. So actually handing them over. So I was saying during the Syrian war and stuff, why aren't you just handing over? Don't complain about these overflowing ISIS prisons in Kurdish, U.S.-backed Kurdish areas. Give them to the Syrian government or give them to the Iraqi government. Let them, undergo trials and receive punishment. But the Americans weren't doing that. They were still thinking of ISIS as a tool to be used. I think handing them over to the Iraqi government isn't a bad thing. And I'm not saying this is an American policy. Don't forget, America, throughout the Syrian war and ISIS, the whole thing, there were like almost sometimes two sets of policy coming out. Okay, there was like what John Kerry or Obama was saying, that's what the CIA, Pentagon was saying. There were so many elements in the US government who were competing for deciding what's going to happen in Syria. And oftentimes, on the ground, contradicting each other. Okay?
And actually, Charmaine, to that example, exactly, I want to ask you a question, because we saw on the one hand, Thomas Barak saying there's no need for the SDF anymore because we have Giuliani in power. He'll take care of his brothers in arms. And then you had Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump's golf buddy, one of his closest allies, ranting on Twitter about how the U.S. should reactivate the Caesar Act, how they should intervene, how the SDF cannot be left behind, etc. He even said, letting the government in Damascus take control of the prisons in the northeast of Syria, it's akin to letting ISIS control ISIS. So,
yeah, but I mean, see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has never shown himself to be remotely concerned about the Kurds in northern Syria, except as a useful tool. Okay, and when their time is expired, he's done, right? Move on to the next. Then again, you have someone like Lindsey Graham, who is warmonger number one in the U.S. Senate and never fails to come in on a policy push that benefits Israel in particular. Never. I mean, bomb Iran, protect the Kurds. Right? That Lindsey Graham is almost exactly neck and neck with Netanyahu in Tel Aviv on everything that lousy country wants, right? So in the US, you have differing opinions on these things. I've tried to bring that nuance into my Syria coverage even, but people just think, even an awful beast like the US is, uniform in its thinking, and it is not. And they go head on head. They compete with each other. I'm sure have even hurt each other physically in different battle zones. But in this case, handing ISIS members over to Iraqi central government security forces is not a bad thing. ISIS people being let out of prison to run wild is a bad thing. But there will be two elements in the U.S., one that wants the former, one that wants the latter. Let's see who wins.
I want to hear Karim's opinions about this entire topic, but quickly, first, I just want to, in our comments, there's a very heated debate about whether Mohammed Marandi can or cannot be president of the U.S. Amazing stuff, amazing stuff. Make sure to leave a like, guys, if you haven't yet.
Oh, speaking of which, hello, Dr. Mohammed Marandi will be on our third interview show, Rock the Cradle, tomorrow,
episode,
and we will release that interview like later in the evening, okay? And I hope to ask him a different set of questions. And, you know, that poor guy, he's on talk shows day in, day out.
Yes.
I hope I can bring something new to the table, but very happy to have him here tomorrow. And just for those who are looking at the larger geopolitical picture and not just Iran, on Monday, and the interview will probably come out Tuesday, we will have former Austrian Foreign Minister Karin Kneissel interviewed at Rock the Cradle, in which we'll be talking about Greenland, the splitting up of Europe, and all that delicious stuff.
Sure, Esteban, they took you?
They did. No, I'm kidding. Just
You're not in
some
Beirut. What happened?
technical issues. I also have technical issues. It's not just you guys. Karim, what do you make about the situation in Syria, and in particular, as it relates to Lebanon and Iraq?
I think what happened is related to the whole world. I think, look, man, we saw the videos and we saw the pictures, and we are not stupid anymore. And it's not the first time this happens. I didn't see a single armored American vehicle or an American soldier during the release of ISIS members from these camps. We saw them. Yeah, and they were going and like hugging Al-Sharia gangs. So the statement that the United States, I don't believe it at all. I don't think they are moving anything. They are just saying that to show the people that they
about
did
Iraq,
something.
right?
Yeah, the CENTCOM one, because there's no videos. Yani. There's thousands of images, I think, and like tons of videos. Where are the Americans? How are you moving them and you are not there? Just, that's one. The second, I think the release is very dangerous for the whole world, because we can say I'm a conspiracy theorist or it's a new thing. Usually I'm not, but I think the only way for Israel to whitewash what they did in the past 2 years is to shed the light on Muslims and on Takfiris, and as they did before. And we all know that ISIS are an American and Israeli asset. They targeted everybody except these two, subhanallah. So I think these people will be used as weapons of mass destruction, meaning as suicide bombers in many cities across the world to increase the hatred of Islam. And then so by increasing the hatred of Islam, you will increase the love of Israel across the globe. And that's my opinion of what happened and why they released them. And congratulations for Syria. You're now officially an ISIS country. And who would have thought now we have an ISIS country called Syria, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, when Giuliani seized power, I think we all kind of called it from the beginning. But of course, it takes a while for corporate press and so many others to catch up. And that's why it's so important for you to support the Cradle, to support the work that we do here. I think we can wrap it up for this week, unless there's anything else.
I have to go to a comment. Somebody is saying that I am they hate me because I'm an absolute asshole to Karim. Just to let y'all know, this brother-sister dynamic between Karim and I is very real. If I slam into Karim, it is because you guys don't know what tricks he plays on me. Okay?
Zero.
You absolute liar. First time I left the Cradle to travel to another country, I wouldn't leave this baby alone. And first trip, okay? calls me to tell me something completely not true that melted my brain, and I had anxiety for the next 3 days just because. And he laughed his butt off. He does this to me all the time.
It was so funny, Charmaine.
It was not funny, and I said, you have to ask your mother and your sister if they would find it funny, and they were like, that's disgusting, you did that to her? No, sorry, I have a sense of humor.
Charmaine, you say half of the story. The other half is that I've been telling people this thing for 3 years, and for 3 years people are laughing, so it's funny.
Let me tell you what was really funny, is that morning at 8 a.m. when I called up Karim at home on a weekend, I said, Karim, Ansar Allah confirmed that Abdul Malik al-Houthi has been killed.
I didn't believe you.
No. First of all, what? Okay. And then, no, it was a work date, because then we came to work. I was like, he didn't call me back. He didn't say, you liar, you. I had to give it back to him. And we come to work, and I'm just looking at him, not saying anything. And then he finally comes to me and says, I know you're waiting for me to say something, but I don't want to give you the satisfaction. He cried like a baby, okay? So it's okay when he does it to me, but he can't take it. I don't treat Karim like an asshole. You have no idea what he does to me behind the scenes. And he acts like an angel on the show. Karim, please.
He's a little angel. He's a little angel, Karim. I will verify that. But no, it's this is like what you see on screen. Everyone, this is how it is in real life. Karim and Charmaine, they're always at each other. They're always trying to one up each other with these things. But in any case,
today.
Yes. Oh well. That's great to know. And it makes me miss you guys actually a lot. It does make me miss the office and all of you. In any case, I think we can wrap it up for this week. I want to thank everyone who joined. I want to thank everyone also who donated a super chat. In particular, of course, thanks to our patrons, to everyone who supports The Cradle. And we ask of anyone who hasn't become a Patreon member yet to consider it. For as little as $5 a month, you can support independent journalism, and that brings you. Look at how many topics we covered this week in these 90 minutes.
Yeah.
We went all across the world, and we enjoy doing this. So help us. Please make sure to leave a like, again, to subscribe if you haven't. Check out our memberships here on YouTube as well. We have YouTube memberships, and also check out our merch at thecradle.co. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you, Karim, and thank you, Charmaine, as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow to Dr. Mohammed
Yes.
Mahdi.
And to check out
or
the Kavar Kalmasian interview too.
Yes. Karin Kneissel on Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
West Asia is always on the map, but rarely in its own voice. This region has been narrated by others for far too long. That's why The Cradle exists, to report from the region, not to speak over it.
Together, the United States
To tell stories with depth, precision, and no editorial leash. Because West Asia is more than just a theater of war. It's the corridor between continents, the energy artery of the world, the cradle of civilization. We don't take government orders. We don't serve corporate boards. We serve clarity, rarity, and rawness, no matter the risk. So if you believe this region deserves better than spin, support the people doing the legwork. Donate. Keep the Cradle independent.